Okay, boys and girls. No, I'm going to start doing this every time now. I don't even mean to do it, but okay. Hi, this is Real Boxing Talk. I'm not going to go to the same line I used before. This is Real Boxing Talk, talking about real boxing on Ultimate Sports Network. As you guys are looking at me like I'm crazy, I'm used to that, so too bad.
Stay on the script, Frank. Jeez.
Hey, boys and girls.
Stay on script. God, we spent days writing the script for you, and you still blow it.
This is Real Boxing Talk with...
Better.
Okay, we've got a lot to talk about, so quit wasting time, Frank. First thing we want to touch on is the Devin Haney fight, or the recently completed Devin Haney fight. I'm sure there was somebody else involved in that as well, Yuriorkis Gamboa. But the idea of now that Haney is throwing his hat into the ring, no pun intended, where does he stand with this? Or was that a solid enough victory? Or is he in the caliber or of the caliber of the people he's trying to jump in with? John, you had a chance to take a look at the fight. What stood out?
He's really good. I was really surprised at a lot of the criticism. He beat up Gamboa, who's past his prime and all that, but he had no problems with Gamboa. He's got a really good educated jab. He knows what he's doing. You know what? I have a theory what's going on with Devin Haney. I think his team and himself have built himself up so much. For example, he said he was going to knock Gamboa down 4 times and win before Crawford did. Putting a lot of pressure on yourself when you're doing that, when you don't have the same kind of power as, say, Teofimo Lopez, right? So he tried. He might have wobbled him a few times. He even hit him with some solid shots where the announcers were like, wow, old China Chin Gamboa been down 9 times in his last 11 fights. He doesn't even look buzzed. Mm-hmm. So I think that was part of it, is that the disappointment is that he won a decision and didn't win by an even Teofimo Lopez, I read, said, well, when you want to make a statement, you got to win by knockout. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we know that. The point is that I would stop with some of that. I keep promoting myself, but he won, and everyone's forgetting that he won probably 11 out of 12 rounds, maybe 12 rounds. No, I had him pitch a shutout. That's impressive. I don't care what anybody says. That's impressive. The kid is a good fighter. He's right there with Ryan Garcia. Different as far as skill set. I mean, I think they fought 4 times in the amateurs and both won twice. I think if I remember correctly. But I think he needs a few more fights. But he's there. He's close. He's extremely talented. His father knows what he's doing as his trainer. I was really surprised at just the avalanche of criticism directed at him.
Well, Charles, we've been kind of pushing him along on this show for a while. Is it premature, or is he, we need to put him in with the big boys now?
Well, I'm kind of like with John. I mean, the criticism is a little bit more intense than what I thought was going to happen. He's a damn good fighter. He's up and coming. But I think we're so caught up, as perhaps some in the boxing community, particularly fans, so caught up in throwing somebody up to say, is he better than this guy, and who's the best? And they want to see who the best is. So you see like Teofimo, like Lopez come out and do what he did against Lomachenko, right? And you come back and you see what Tank Davis did. And so then those 2 guys come out and kind of show you, here's our performance. Then you have Haney follow up with that, and it's like, he was all right. But that's how it is. Wasn't nothing special. You beat Gamboa, right? You didn't knock him out. So I think a lot of fans are looking at it from that standpoint. So I'll say this. I think he's very talented. I will say this. I saw some things. I mean, he was sharp. As John said, he had educated punches. He was on. But I think I agree, he needs a couple more fights. I don't think he's ready for the upper echelon, that tier. I don't think he's ready for Lopez. I don't think he's ready for even Davis. Not right now. I think let me just say this. I think he's very good. I think, as you said, 1 or 2 fights, and quit trying to rush. That's the other thing. I know the team is excited. You're undefeated. You're feeling good.
Right.
Don't rush it. It's like, even if you wait for another year, whatever it may take, fight this, fight that guy. Quit rushing. I know one, and I know I don't want to jump the gun, but I'm going to say it because it's been on my tongue. I know the fight I want to see. I want to see him fight right now. And John, you already let some, you introduced it early on. Let him fight Ryan Garcia. They fought 4 times in the amateurs, 2-2. It will be perfect. They're both undefeated. They're both young. We can get past this drama, and so much more is on the line now. They know each other. I think it's perfect, and I think it's a hell of a way to promote it as, yeah, up and coming, rising. The winner takes the next step.
Well, it's something interesting to think about. If this had been 3-4 years ago, if even that, we would have said, you beat Gamboa. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's not the same guy. Yeah. My thought is this, and this has been going on forever, but it's just when you put somebody in with someone who is, as John said, past their prime or is not as prepared or just older, when you get that win over someone who has experience, has all the accolades that Gamboa has had, do we need to put guys in with those guys? Does it prove something or does it disprove something? Because I'm looking at it and it seems to me that what the masses are saying is, yeah, but you beat Gamboa. Well, if you'd said that 2 years ago, be like, hey, he beat Gamboa. John, as you're the up-and-comer, I know there are only so many guys you can fight, but is it the guy that, used to be undefeated and now is 27 and now 8 or 9? Do you need to avoid that guy? And can you avoid that guy?
We talked about this a few weeks ago or last week. It was a calculated risk in the sense of Haney's team. I'm thinking, okay, they thought that they would do better than Davis did. Davis won by a 12th round stoppage, and right. What Crawford did. Now, Crawford fought Gamboa when he was more in his prime, might have been in his prime, at least close. And he got wobbled. He got hurt by him, no doubt about it, early in the fight. And he had to adjust, and he came back and knocked him down a few times and won. It was impressive. Davis struggled with him at times, but he stopped him. He hit him with everything but the kitchen sink, cliche time, but he still won. So I think they were thinking, look, if we manage to stop him early, we can say he did better than Crawford. If we stop him between that, if we stop him around the 11th round or 12th, we could say we did as good as Davis or better. But, he's not a puncher boxer, Haney. He's a boxer puncher. So you can't be thinking he's going to knock people out. I always mention Andre Ward, and he's always a great example of this. He was a boxer puncher. He used to hate it when people would say that he didn't have a lot of power. Ooh, he'd get mad. Got mad at me a few times when I said that. Because he just, and then Virgil Hunter would say, well, the higher you move up, you don't knock out guys as much. Well, yes and no. Some guys that knock out guys, doesn't matter what level they're at, right? They're going to knock you out, like Davis knocked out. Leo Santa Cruz really never been down in his whole career. Knocked cold by Davis. So it's that power thing. Haney, they just wanted to beat. I think that was it. They wanted to say, okay, now we're ready because we did better than Davis. We did equally as good as Crawford. We're ready. What it did prove to me, and I agree with what Charles said, it proved that no, he's not ready. He's good. I mean, I was thinking he gave Davis hell with that jab. He's got a good jab for a young kid. He's taller, kind of like Leo. And his jab is better than Leo Santa Cruz's. So Davis would have a hard time getting under because Gamboa really never got that close to him. But his problem is he doesn't like it on the inside. And we know that Giovante the Tank loves it on the inside. Right. So if he gets him on the inside, Haney's going to be like, oh boy, I'm getting out of here fast. So that could be a problem. But I agree let me just real quick. I agree. I wish he would fight Garcia. That would be a great fight, but Oscar's got Garcia and he's talking Lopez. He's not even talking about Haney right now. So will it happen? Maybe down the road, but not immediately, it sounds like.
You made an interesting point, and maybe it's something we carry out later. When you live by the knockout and that's what you do moving up, then you tend to be the one that gets knocked out to lose a fight. Foreman, Hearns, any number of guys that's what they did. And then when they got to somebody that could actually Wilder, if they can take the punch or you don't
Tyson.
get off the punch, Tyson, right? You end up being the one that gets knocked out. You know, you have to be that guy that changes the way you do things, the higher caliber of guys you fight. Charles, we're looking at here the idea of the muddy waters, as we call it, but does it really have to be that muddy? And you said be patient and wait for the next opportunity instead of trying to force it. And you said Garcia is a great idea, but if it doesn't seem that's going to work out, do you move up? Do you stay there? What do you do if you're Devin Haney?
If I'm his folks, I'm to his team, I'm telling him to stay right where he is, okay? Because there's a lot of things that are going to open up. And as far as they're talking about Garcia and Lopez, Lopez has made it now, man. I mean, you know, Garcia is like, yeah, I would have done that before, but I just beat Lomachenko, right? So why do I need to? Why I need to see you?
Right.
What do you really offer me? And you can't blame me for that. You beat the number one pound for pound, everybody's darling. You took
the legend.
Yeah, you beat him. So why would I fight you next? It doesn't behoove me to, do whatever. At least Haney has a title, right? Haney's a champion. So, but besides that, I think that if I'm Haney's folks, I'm like, okay, let's cool our jets a little bit. Let's see how things start to work out. Let's keep training, keep working on some things, improving. There's a lot of good fights out there. Don't be in such a rush to run up there and try to fight Lopez or whoever. And you're a champion. You're a young champion. And you mentioned before about, was it a calculated risk? It was to fight Gamboa and lose, or at least not have that strong luster. The thing is, you need to fight that guy. Okay?
Yeah.
If you keep fighting other guys that are limited or they're easy knockouts, you're not proving anything. Granted, he didn't get the result he was looking for, but you beat him. So, and quit saying, like John said, we're going to knock this guy out and I'm knocking him down 4 times. Nobody cares about that. Win the fight. Some things remain old school in boxing. Win, move on. Everybody's about flash. Everybody's social media. Everybody trying to be the next beautiful and great thing. And everybody wants to have that star so they can make money. If you win, you don't have to worry about it. So I would say he needs to relax. They need to get him in the gym, calculate who you want to fight next. There are a lot of options out there. If Garcia doesn't like that, then, there's some other things out there too. But there's no need to rush and panic because you're listening to the knuckleheads on social media telling you stuff.
Okay. Yeah. No, not me. Okay. Okay. But the idea of Gamboa is a stepping stone. If Gamboa is a stepping stone, and here we go, segue. If that's the case, then how did that play out for the next one we're going to talk about for Terrence Crawford, Bud Crawford? Was that a stepping stone fight? Again, we've already acknowledged that he got Gamboa at a better time in his career, or worse time, however you want to look at it. But Bud's still out there spinning in the wind. Now, I'm not saying Kell Brook's going to be a walkover, but we'll get to that in a second. But isn't that kind of the same thing that Crawford's? Okay, I got this guy. Now better things should happen. And I'm not sure that they have. John?
Well, see, I was thinking, you talk about segue, I was thinking, we were talking about Garcia. Garcia was going to fight Luke Campbell. To me, that was similar because Lomachenko fought Luke Campbell. So he's doing the same thing. He's saying, if I can stop Luke Campbell, then Lomachenko didn't. Lomachenko got buzzed in the 9th round with an uppercut. I blew him away in 5 rounds. Unfortunately, that got postponed because Campbell has COVID. Right. So all the health prayers to him and everybody in his family. But that is the way they always do it. And if you go back a million years in boxing history, that's always the way they do it. They try to find an older guy that's got a good reputation at this point, put the young guy in there and hope that he blasts him out. Joe Louis did it with the ex-champions. He knocked out Max Berry, knocked out Primo Carnero. Then he ran into the other one that knocked him out. And that's the risk that Charles was talking about, that sometimes your guy isn't as ready as you think. And that's the other thing is there is no hurry here. Why are they rushing this? These are young guys. Haney's 21 years old. Garcia's 22. And then with Garcia, who's he fought? He hasn't even fought a Gamboa.
Right.
That was going to be Campbell. See,
Luke Campbell fight, right?
So there's your segue, is that they're doing the same thing in different ways. And then Teofimo's sitting around going, well, look, I'm a king. You know, you can fight those guys. I don't care. I got no interest in you yet. Maybe you win if you beat somebody a little bit higher up and a little younger and a little. Now Campbell is a tough dude, and he's not over the hill. He's just fighting all the best fighters in the world, you know.
Right.
So he could surprise Garcia, because Garcia has flaws. You know, I don't care what anybody says. If you've seen it, his head's up in the air. Campbell could catch him. Very possible. I mean, to me, he might be a live underdog. I don't bet much, but I might be thinking a little bit about that when the fight gets close. But that's the boxing rule, is, you know, you want to say you did this to this guy, to the other guy, like I said. But and let me throw this in. I'm jumping all over the place, but I thought of something Charles said. Don't you wish, Charles, that Haney was lighter, because we could watch him, and this would be a fight for purists. Devin Haney against Shakur Stevenson. Would that be a fun fight? You know, both young, both fast, both moving. I think Stevenson's advanced faster, obviously, than Haney. But I mean, you're talking about quickness that I love. I love quickness. I always have. And you're young, hungry. I mean, that would be fun. So that's it. I'm all over the place, Frank.
Well, no, but that's part of, obviously, for anyone, if you're watching the show for the first time, that's what we do. Sorry, we jump around because we talk about stuff that interests us, not just, and on the script now we're going to point number 4.
Forget the script.
Yeah, forget the script. We can't even start with the script. So, all right, now back to the script. Looking at what's coming up this weekend, this has been on our radar for a while. If you don't, I don't know the best way to put this. If you're not a Bud Crawford fan, I think you're nuts. I'm not saying that he's the best thing out there. I'm not saying he's going to beat everybody in that weight class, but a Bud Crawford fight is worth watching. I don't know if there's a better way of putting that. Charles, we've been back and forth on this guy for a while. Not back and forth, but we've been talking about him for a while. What makes Bud Crawford special?
Well, his ability to switch between a boxer and a devastating puncher. I mean, he is a technician, and I think he showed us that. For instance, if he switches from southpaw back to conventional, he has a lot of trick to his game, and not only that, he's able to overwhelm a lot of his opponents, or has been. So I think that's the thing, part of it. And he's exciting. I mean, he's different. He's from Nebraska. I mean, really? The hill comes from Nebraska. A lot of people don't know Malcolm X was from Nebraska. That's where he's born. A lot of people didn't know that. But Nebraska, so normally when you think Nebraska, you don't think Nebraska, okay. But that's who he is, and he's been rising up the ladder, and we've been waiting for him to move to 147, and now he's moving up to 147. And I think the attraction too is about him fighting somebody legitimate at 147. It's been the way for me. The 140, yeah, okay, you putting guys down, but you keep chirping, you want Spence. Just fight somebody that's legit at 147. And I think this weekend, depending on what guy shows up, and I can get into that later. I don't want to take that off of John real quick, but I think it could be interesting. So when you get done with John, come back to me, please.
Well, all right, John. Let's go to the Kell Brook side, because this is a guy who's been in the playing field, but isn't in the playing field. I'm not quite sure why. I'm not quite sure what happened. He went in public opinion, and even the rankings and everything, he's been right there, but he's not the guy anyone's saying, we got to fight this guy. Even though, how many fights has he lost?
2.
And who did he lose to?
Golovkin, right?
Yeah.
Then he lost to that other guy that's fighting Garcia here, that guy named Errol Spence.
Yeah. So it's not like he's been losing to chopped liver. But again, the way we look at things, we go, well, he's lost 2 fights, and we don't bother to look to see who those 2 fights are against. So give us a little something on Kell Brook.
Well, okay, let me say this real fast. When I hear Nebraska, here you go for you old sports fans, I think of Johnny Rogers. Remember Johnny Rogers?
I was going to say Bob Gibson, but okay, Johnny Rogers. I talked to Johnny Rogers. Nice guy.
Yeah, he played for Nebraska, so I think about he number 20. Remember him returning kickoffs? Oh boy,
Heisman Trophy winner, got to the CFL, right?
Really showing that I'm old. Well, we knew we did that last weekend. Yes, I know. Kell Brook, the eye problems got him. You know, the broken orbital bone in the left and the right eye in consecutive fights. That's what derailed him in a sense as far as his momentum was going. And he always wanted to fight Amir Khan, and it looked like it was going to happen. And he was talking about retirement. I mean, I wrote an article about it. It was fascinating. He's a really interesting guy. They call him the special one. And yeah, when he gave Golovkin, he showed that Golovkin. Well, you know, we knew he's not perfect back then, but he was beating up Golovkin for a number of rounds. He easily. It was like, whoa, you know, because that was when we didn't think anybody could really beat Golovkin, but
right.
He was, and he gave Errol Spence a lot of problems, and he beat a guy named Sean Porter to win the IBF welterweight title.
Yeah,
as we know, a guy who's really difficult to beat. So it's just that he lost his momentum. He lost his confidence, from what I understand, from what I was researching when I wrote the article. The problem with his eye sockets, that sounds pretty damn painful to have a broken bone, orbital bone under your eye, your eye socket. And he was just, oh, well, I was champ. I moved up. I lost. Errol Spence beat me. He came to my hometown. He came to my backyard and he beat me, even though the fight was even after 6 or 7 rounds. And he just kind of ran out of gas. And Errol just knocked him down in the 10th, stopped him in the 11th. But it was because of the eye that they stopped it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I was debating my headline because I said a chance. I called it a chance, Kell Brook. And then I was thinking, well, maybe I should have put a pretty good chance, because he's got a pretty good chance to win on Saturday. He does, especially in the early going, I think, because you got to remember, Kell Brook, 39-2, 27 knockouts. And if Terrence Crawford, if there's anything that happens with him, is he starts slow and he can get tagged early. And he did. He got tagged in his last fight. They didn't call it a knockdown, but it was a knockdown. So if Kell Brook can get off to a fast start and maybe hurt him, upset is possible. Very slim, but possible. And then the other thing is, this is why we love Crawford. He won't always fight the way he should, because as Charles said, and here it comes, Frank, crafty when he wants to be. He changes the southpaw, he goes the other way. So he gets into a fight. He likes to fight, and that's what makes him so much fun. He's 36-0 with 27 knockouts. Another guy. So this could really be real interesting the first 4 or 5 rounds, but then after that, I don't think Brooks. I think his chances get slimmer and slimmer. He just wears out. But he's the bigger guy, so we know that means something. Sometimes we certainly saw it with Lopez and Lomachenko.
Right.
So again, this fight, I agree. This fight could be very interesting. And again, always the cliche comes down to who shows up. If Brooks suddenly finds what he had before and shows up, and that shows up on Saturday, and if that's the Crawford again that we saw in his last fight, big upset. But if that was a fluke and he's Crawford, he goes through a little tough times and he wins. So again, I'm looking forward to it.
The thing I find interesting in what you just said, now, and we've seen fighters, Gotti for one is one that always comes to mind. You break a hand, or or I think it was Mildred Taylor or Pernod, I forget which one it was, but you pop a hand in the middle of the fight, and he's not throwing his left, he's not throwing his right, but he's still able to get through. If a bone breaks in your face, how do you keep that from being a part of the fight? And how do you come back from broken bones in your face? Because the other guy's objective is to hit you in the face.
Yeah. How about broken jaw, Frank?
Yeah. I mean, how does that heal? Does it heal? Have you gotten to the point where everything's fine and then boom, you're like, uh-oh, something doesn't feel right. Yeah. And so is that something like a guy that gets cut all the time? You get used to it, but you're also used to, oh shit, I got cut again, and now I got blood in my eye. So to me, that's one of the things that you're going to have to look at with Kell Brook. And is he healthy? I guess is the best way of putting it. When Crawford switches from southpaw to orthodox, when he goes from, as Charles said, from power to boxer, what all those things, he's going to land a shot at some point. How does Kell Brook look from that? Okay, Charles, you want to back on the horse, you go right ahead.
Appreciate that. When you look at it, I mean, literally like last night, I watched Kell Brook. I went back and watched his fight, and I was like, and I never saw the Porter fight. So I went back and watched the fight, and I was like, wow. I was so blown away because, as you know, about that forward motion that Porter has. And in the second round, Kell Brook got cut over his eye. And they said, don't worry about it, keep fighting. And Porter was his really wild self, and Porter was champion at that time.
Right.
Defeated and champion. So Kell Brook had to put work in. I was really impressed. And then I looked at it too. And then I went to watch the Golovkin fight. And it was just clear that he wasn't big enough. He wasn't big enough. And his team did a very unique, unusual thing. He was still in the fight in about the fifth, sixth round. They just threw the towel in. They said, that's enough. And you could tell his eye was really, messed up.
Right.
But they threw it in. And then, of course, he battled with Errol Spence and all that too. And he really fought real well. But as you mentioned, the question is, it comes back to which guy is going to show up. Because he had a little time now, took some time off. He's won his last 3 fights, right? It's not on the same level of Crawford. Crawford is Crawford. But again, granted, we expect Crawford, we've done everything we can to make him the second coming, only below maybe 1 or 2 guys, and that's fine. I don't get a problem with that because he's proven he's done it. But this is a time, and I've been waiting on this, a legitimate 147 guy who has it all or had it all, and he's showing he can really go after it. And when I just watched the Porter fight, the jab and the right hand and the uppercut of Kell Brook was like, whoa. And the other part you talk about too is the age too. We try to act like Crawford's like 29. Nah, bro.
Right.
That's when we talked about the whole thing about Crawford fighting Gamboa, and you look at Haney. Haney's, Crawford's like 30 and some change. We know that.
33.
So, yeah. So his clock is really ticking. So you think you have, if this was a couple years ago, prior to the Golovkin fight, this would have been one hell of a fight. Really one hell of a fight. But still, we can't go backwards. But even with all that being said, I'm with John. I think depending on how he comes in, Brook could have a lot to bring and a lot to offer. Because I wouldn't say he's crafty. I'll just say this. He knows what the hell he's doing. Okay? And they practice a lot. They see what's going on. The one thing, too, that I'm really, besides you talked about the eyes and which guy's going to come in, the one thing makes me a little leery of choosing Brook also is the factor that he's no longer with his original trainer.
Right.
And he's with a new guy. And granted, that can be a great thing. It doesn't matter. But if you're really trying to move forward, unless you really know, it can work for you. A la with Fury when he changed. So it can work for you. But it's so many questions. And I think he can put up a good fight. But again, which Kell Brook's going to show up. And Crawford, this is what he wants. And if he's all that and legit and back on his game, he should go through him. But there's just a lot of what ifs.
And I swear I never do this, but I'm going to quote Marcellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction. Boxers don't have an old timers day. All right. This is where we see Terrence Crawford and go. And as we mentioned his age, now, like I said, we don't seem to think of him as being 33, but we know he's 33. And he's been in some good fights. If he wants to be what he says he wants to be, which there's no doubting that that's true in my understanding of it, he's got to have a sense of urgency because he can't string this out for another 2 or 3 years. The pandemic didn't help matters much at all. He could have had this fight months ago and then been moving on. But if he's going to get, let's say it's Errol Spence, which is what it looks like it's boiling down to. We're a fight away, a car accident away, a virus away to this going another 2 or 3 years. If he's 36 and trying to get this fight, Who knows? And we know in sports, the end comes a lot quicker than you think it does. And it could have been a day, an hour, and I hate to say this because maybe he'll be watching, but I go on the James Worthy factor. James Worthy was a bad man one season, and he was a man the next season. Didn't make him the worst player in the league by any stretch of the imagination. He wasn't that guy that he was the season before. And
it's crazy.
and you don't know. And especially in a sport like this, where you don't know what something is going to take out of you. And again, people have said that Crawford has been ducking people. I don't know about that. He's fought who's in front of him. He hasn't fought chumps. He's fought good fighters. But you don't know what's going to be taken out of him. Again, if the Kell Brook that we saw a few years ago shows up, that's going to take some more starch out of him. Will he be able to recuperate and then get to those guys? So I think there's a sense of urgency in Bud Crawford in this one that maybe we haven't seen before. And I don't think that bodes well for Kell Brook. But again, a good fighter with a good punch, and Crawford has a tendency to get, even though he is very calm and coordinated, he does get a little reckless on occasion.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So that could be a major factor. So we'll circle back to this again. There's something I want, and there's no segue, I'm sorry about that, but something I want to get out there that I don't understand. We've talked about before. Was it the WBC or the WBA or the IGF or somebody, the PTA, somebody has said that we are now going to have another weight class between cruiserweight and heavyweight or super heavyweight or the bridger or whatever they're calling it. And it's 240? Is that what I read?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the excitable. We're all excited about that. But John, when we've talked about this, I don't know that this one is as bad of an idea as I've been thinking that other ones are, because there is a large gap between 200 and 260. So that's not that bad. I've had to think about this for a second, but as we're adding this one, maybe we should take away some of the other ones. I mean, how does this affect boxing in general, you think?
You made a good point, Frank, because the guys that weigh like 205 or, the cruiserweight limit is 200, right?
Right.
So those guys that are a little above it, like Usyk, right? He's 215 and he's fighting these guys that are monsters that weigh 250. It almost doesn't seem fair that it's, what I think it is? I think it's we're just exhausted with all these belts and divisions. And the minute we hear, oh, they're going to create it, we go, ugh. Mm-hmm. And I believe it is the WBC and it's the thing that makes it's hard not to be cynical, because they have their fee. If you fight for their belt, they're going to charge you for, millions to keep saying you're the WBC champion. That's garbage. I mean, I've had some problems with Canelo Alvarez, but I loved it when he told the WBC what they could do with their belt a few years ago. And it wasn't nice what he said that they could do with that belt. I mean, I love that, because I thought, I was thinking, look, if that's me, I'm the champion. You're not.
You should be paying me. I should be paying you, right?
Exactly. It's ridiculous. And there's so many belts out there. If you want to get cheap about it, you can say, oh, look, I don't care. Now, the WBC belt has a lot of prestige. That's why fighters love to have it. If I was one, I would love to have it too. But I hear you, Frank, because if you look back in history, I mean, the legends like Jack Dempsey only weighed around 190 and Joe Louis weighed 199 for years. I mean, we're talking smaller guys, not small guys, but compared to nowadays, when Klitschko, the monster, was fighting, and then Fury is 275.
Valuev, right, yeah.
Right, Joshua was 250. These are big dudes. So you say you're bringing up a heavyweight and he weighs 210, right? And he's 32-0 with 30 knockouts, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have to fight a guy who's 6'9", 280. I mean, it happened. Joe Louis, like Primo Carnero, was 6'7", 260, but he wasn't like a Fury. Right. He wasn't nearly as good as a Fury. So I understand that part logically, but the historical part of me, I just don't like another weight division. It just eats at me a little bit, because here we go again. So, but then again, here I go. I'm sitting up on the fence, because then again, it could help. It could help guys like like a Usyk. But then he's going to move up anyway. That's what I was thinking. He's going to say, I'm not making money in this division.
There's the thing,
Nobody
right?
really wants to fight. I want to fight the heavyweight champion. So what's it really going to be? Is it really going to be something that helps guys that are a little smaller? Or is it just going to be another thing that guys use as a springboard to fight the heavyweight champion? So,
well, Charles, this is what we were talking about last time, where name a cruiserweight champion or several cruiserweights. You can probably come up with one or two. And I'd like to think we know something about this game. Going back to where the cruiserweights were invented, if you want to call it that, was in the mid to early 80s. Name like 5 cruiserweight champions. We couldn't do it the other day. I came up with Holyfield, and that was it. I mean, I'm sure that if we really thought about it, we really have to think about it. Now you've got another gap in between there. So is this something, again, I'm going to do, John, I'm going to do the same thing. I can see both sides of it, but Charles, is this something that we really need, or is it something that someone just wanted?
I think it depends on what the purpose of it is, and I think that's where I think it's something that somebody wanted. As you talk about, we talk about these weights, and John mentioned about the difference between a guy like 265 and Fury jumped up to what he did, and then you got another guy trying to fight him at 215, and it's back and forth. So, granted, if there are guys that are fighters and they're a little light in the weight and they're comfortable only fighting guys their size, I get that. If you want to bring in the new area and you want to put it all together, a new section, lighter is the light. Lighter the light heavy, lighter the light heavy, or heavies, lighter the light.
Junior light heavyweight.
Yeah, junior heavy or whatever you want to call it. That's fine. But I'm sorry, I'm old. I'm older. I'm old school. It's what it is. When you sit up here whining about, you call yourself a heavyweight. Now you wanted to put, well, I'm not really heavyweight. I'm 210, but if I was 215, if I was 220, I'll fight anybody. Back in the day, man, come on. This to me is too much, okay? Maybe I'm old and they're going to move me out the pasture one day, and I'm good with that. But to sit up here and make excuses to create another division when everybody knows there was no bottoms or there was no in-betweens. When it comes to heavyweight is heavyweight. If you want to get in with the men, I know they're bigger and stronger athletes, but my question would be this. Do you think a Mike Tyson would say, wow, damn, that Tyson Fury outweighs me by how many pounds?
Excellent point.
Bigger than me?
Excellent point.
I don't want to fight him because, oh my God. Well, that's not his mentality. It's, I see him, he's my target, he's in front of me, seek, kill, destroy. That kind of, that danger Will Robinson, that kind of is one of them things that it just comes off of that way. So for them to make another division, it's fine. The people with the money do that anyway. But for the true boxing purists or people that really enjoy boxing, they don't want to hear no excuses, man. If you decide you want to rise up and you 200 and above, or whatever it is, the light is, move up. If not, drop back down. Again, calculated risk. Roy Jones moving up to fight John Ruiz so he can get that title, okay? He picked the right guy because he knew there might be somebody else on that division could really knock his block off. So I would say they're going to do what they want to do, but if it was up to me, quit whining. Because the question is, who's going to watch that? Who's going to watch that?
Right. Well, okay. And you still have the picture up there. Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you talk about old school, if it was up to me, I'd get rid of the cruiserweight division. I'd have it like it was in the old days where it was just light heavyweight. So you, like Bob Foster, take Bob Foster. There's another example. Did Bob Foster, who weighed 170 something, and he moved up and he fought heavyweights, he weighed 180, couldn't gain any weight. Did he ever say, oh, that guy Joe Frazier's outweighed me by 30 pounds, I'm not going to fight him? He said, no, I want to fight him. Did he say Muhammad Ali outweighs me by 35 pounds? I'm not. Nope, he fought him. So that's true. This is the manly sport, boxing. So like I said, if it was up to me, I'd get rid of the cruiserweights and say, look, if you're a light heavyweight and you want to get in the heavyweight division, then start eating very slowly a few things, start gaining some weight, fighting some guys. And then if you're confident, you get up to 215 and you think that monster at 280, you can take him, and you got that kind of mentality, fight him.
Can I throw one last thing in there real quick?
Go ahead.
It's like the comparison of Crayola Crayon 64. I never got one of those. I always wanted that set. Never got it. Cruiserweight to me is like the Crayola crayons. 64 crayons. There's always 1 or 2 crayons that I don't know if anybody in the whole world ever used. Ever. You can go down the box and go, you see a kid, they never used this, no, had no reason to. It's been there for so long, like Cruiserweight, you might as well just leave it. That's how long it's been. That's how it's 64. They made changes to the crayons, but you don't change the 64. So let Cruiserweight be what it is. Not a lot of people watching it, not getting a lot of fanfare. It's not hurting anything, so let them live.
Periwinkle? What the hell color is periwinkle? Yeah. Oh, well, okay, there's a guy on the picture that's standing up behind you, on the poster behind you, that he's been called the greatest. I'm not going to argue if you're going to call him the greatest. Cruiserweight, basically, until he got older. Actually light heavy, because there wasn't cruiserweights in. We talked about the career of Michael Spinks, one of the best to ever do it. It was a light heavyweight. Fought a couple fights, got a few titles at heavyweight, but he was basically still a light heavyweight. He had to put on a few pounds. I get that. But if you want to do it, do it. Now, granted, there weren't 280-pound monsters for him to fight at that point, but you're saying he wasn't going to fight him? No. If you would have put Valuev against Ali, you don't think Ali would have went, bring it on, big boy. Let's see what you got. So I get that side of it, but I also get the part of it that the other divisions are being set up or have been set up for the equality of what they do, of what they are. So it is kind of hard to think, if I'm 205, I've got to fight somebody 285. Whereas if I'm 137, I got to go up to 140. That's the next spot. I think there are too many divisions at the lower end, and maybe there should be more divisions at the upper end. But even then, I'm not sure of. I'm not sure I understand, because I haven't been 126 in quite some time. I'm not sure that I think I went from 126 to 150 in about 3 days. So I don't know that there's that much of there's that gap there. I'm sure there is, but to say that, especially when you get to the minimum weights and the flyweights and all that, it's a 3-pound difference. Come on, is that really? That's a sandwich. That's some potato chips. That's not a big deal to me. Now, when you're talking about a couple of T-bones from 200 to 240, that's a different story, but we'll have to see how it plays out. I've been on record as saying I'm against adding anything else and cutting down the belts, but I'm not so sure that this is a bad thing. I just don't know that it's a good thing. And I don't know if there's a difference there, but,
Frank, real fast, I see it. And the reason I'm thinking about it is because, again, Jack Dempsey weighed 190, Jess Willard weighed 250. Jack Dempsey was 6 feet, Jess Willard was 6'5". They thought, oh, he's going to kill that little guy. That Jack Dempsey was that little guy, right? Which sounds really weird because, he's a legend, right? So I get what you're saying, but there's something real almost mythical about the heavyweights. And see, you start messing with that chemistry thing. That's an issue. That's what I mean. When the cruiserweights came into play, I wasn't very excited about it either, because look at what the goal all the cruiserweights is. They want to move up to heavyweight. So what is this? You're in the minors for a few years making some money, and then you want to, that's what I mean. So I don't know. I think it's all just about money. That's what I think it is. But but the other side of me understands what you're saying. If for a fighter who weighs 202 pounds, right? Like Rocky Balboa did in the sequel, 202, facing a guy who weighs 280, and you don't have that Mike Tyson mentality, you're going to be like, hey, is this fair? There's good point. Right. I don't see Terrence Crawford at 147 fighting a guy who weighs 197. Even though they rehydrate before a fight, they get up to
and there's the rub there, because do have that happening on occasion. and we've talked about this before.
20 pounds, yeah, probably 20 pounds, yeah. It does
Chavez Jr. came in at weighed in at 159. Fight night, he was 187. It's like,
yeah, see, that's wrong.
Heck?
That's another thing we should talk about at some point, because that's
lost,
not right.
But yeah. Well, that's no, I'll go on that all day. So, all right, Charles, change the subject on me, because I'm not sure where I want to go here.
Oh wow. I think that when you look at it, my point is, what do we do now? Because you have a lot, particularly like that welterweight area, right? I saw something about Errol Spence, and they asked him in the interview as to how long was he going to stay at welterweight? Because we talked about that before.
Right.
And he said he saw himself with 3 more fights at welterweight. And he said the 3 fights would probably be Garcia, Pacquiao, and Crawford. And then he said he was thinking about moving up. That's why you're hearing the rumors about Canelo.
Right.
But the other thing he said was, they asked him who would he fight. And I guess my question is, how you think this is going to roll with him and so many different people in that range of 147 to 160? They asked him if anybody else in any division, who would you fight? He's like, well, my boys, the brothers are in 154 and 160.
Right.
And I don't want to go there. So who else you want me to fight?
Right.
The only reason why that I would fight Canelo at 160, unless my buddy, the Charlo brother said he don't want to fight.
Right.
And if I could get it, I will fight him. He said, so what y'all want me to do? I listed at 147, I listed Garcia, I listed Pacquiao, I listed Crawford. What y'all want me to do? So I want to get you guys' opinion. That was amazing when he said that, because we hear about the ducking, we hear about people, oh, you don't want to fight this guy. He said, what the hell you want me to do? I just told you.
Triple G.
Yeah, he don't want that smoke.
but see, there's where we're at. Again, we've already mentioned Triple G in this earlier, and we mentioned him at 140, right? We talk about Canelo. The fight against Mayweather is at 147. They're out of the range of these guys now because they've morphed past that, or grown past it, or eaten away, or whatever, buffeted their way out. Let's put it that way. But that's a good thing if I look at it the way I'm looking at it, because they're now where they should be, instead of trying to make, I used to kill me to see, Thomas Hearns trying to make 147. Like, are you kidding me? Somebody feed that man. It just seemed weird. And I'll go on the record of, well, Paul Williams has no problem making weight. Really? Are you sure about that? And he made weight? Sure. What was he the day of the fight? Those are the 2 examples I think of all the time, but there are plenty of guys like that. And it seems to me it would be safer for all concerned. It would be better for all concerned. And I'm going to get on, where's my soapbox here? I think I threw it away finally. It's to the point where you get almost, as we mentioned, the Chavez Jr. fight, where, okay, I'm going to play by the rules. I know I can make weight. Doesn't mean I have to stay at that weight. And you get in the fight and you look up and go, holy crap, this guy's 20 pounds heavier than I am. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter at the heavyweights as we're talking about it, because it's the weigh-in's a formality. That's just for us to put on the fight card and go, he's 218, he's 239. Let's roll. But for the lower weights, it gets a little carried away. So again, I don't want to go over this 1,700 times, because I can talk about this all day, but it's the idea of, as you said, we've got one Charlo at 154, we got one Charlo at 160. Can one make the weight and the other one make the other weight? Sure, they probably could. They set it up so they don't have to fight each other. But who's going to get the fights win? Well, I don't want to fight him. Well, I want to fight him. Okay, I'll go down, you go up. Can they do that? Probably. There's so many things in the middle of things that we can find out, but I just think when it's so close, we don't get a true test of, I don't know, manhead. I'm going to throw this name at you, John, and I'm going to let you run. Tommy Burns.
Tommy Burns? Did you say you froze for a second?
Yeah, Tommy Burns.
Yeah,
so
5'7" heavyweight champion who fought Jack Johnson in 1908. Is that the Tommy Burns that you're talking about? Jack Johnson chased him all over the world before he would agree to finally money that Johnson finally threw at him, and he said, "Yeah, right. That's a little guy, right, against Jack Johnson, who was over 200 at that point and in good shape, and 30 years old and in his prime, and he just destroyed Tommy Burns. Now that was a long time ago, Frank, but I think I understand what. Yeah, I think I understand what. I wasn't around yet. I saw that look in your eye. It was not Charles. Come on,
I was at ringside for that one. Yeah,
guys gave me a hard time last week. I might have been a year old. I don't know, but my grandfather was born a year later, so there you go, 1909. But yeah, I think I understand. And you know what? Something I got to throw in, because we always do this, like you said, we jump over, is I heard that Terrence Crawford's contract with Top Rank is coming to an end soon. So if he signs with PBC, right, then the Errol Spence fight will definitely happen. That will happen, because I never have understood some of the way that Bob Arum has run his career, because those guys want to fight each other, and they both want to fight Pacquiao, which is funny because Crawford wanted to fight Pacquiao too. He wanted to fight him, and that's how he ended up fighting Kell Brook. He thought he was going to fight Pacquiao, but Pacquiao's like, nah, not right now. So I kind of like that, because I don't really think Bob Arum has. See, I like Eddie Hearn with Anthony Joshua, and I think he's pretty much right about Joshua. I start to think that these promoters kind of they think they're not as impressed by these guys as we might be, like with Terrence Crawford. And I think Bob Arum was almost like, but why? Crawford has never really even got close to being defeated. I mean, okay, he's been staggered a few times, but it wasn't like he went, he's going to lose. It's never been like that. So it's been strange the way Top Rank, he's never made a lot of money, so I think, he's made good money, but not the money he should make at 36-0, two-time champion, unified the junior welterweight 140-pound division, no problem. I think he's thinking that when he fights Errol Spence, that'll be pay-per-view, and then finally, both of them will make a boatload of money. But where Errol Spence goes, I love that. But, he's fighting Garcia, and we got to see what he looks like here after the car accident. That's what's very intriguing. We got to see. He should probably be fine, but, man, it's a miracle that man is around.
Right. Okay, Charles, and now here's the segue. I must be the segue king. Okay, Now we're looking at it as where the promoters fit in, where the boxers fit in, and the segue is now Canelo was a free agent. Mm-hmm. When you are the darling of boxing, you are the man. Will we see someone, Canelo, say, I don't need the promoters need me. I don't need to promote the fight. You can do that, but we're going to go on a one-fight deal. You promote this one, that's it. I'm not signing a contract. I'm signing a contract for this fight, because the Canelos, the Errol Spences, the Bud Crawfords, if his deal comes up, the Tyson Furies, these guys, I think, and I could be wrong about this, I think they could say, enough of this crud. I'll get you your money. You sign the deal. You promote the fight. You take your cut. I have no problem with that. But I don't need to be tied to you at the hip if I'm the one they're coming after. If I'm Tyson Fury, as an example, I can fight any heavyweight I want or not fight. I don't need a promoter to put all this together for 2, 3, 4 years down the road. I've already arrived. Now, if I'm, say, Shakur Stevenson, I may need that guy, but I don't need Bob Arum if I'm Errol Spence. I don't need Golden Boy if I'm Bud Crawford or Gervonta Davis right now. I don't need them. I don't need that. Now, can we survive this, Charles, or this is a one guy, one thing? Or are we seeing something different with Canelo now being a free agent?
Well, I think it just depends. I think some people are just comfortable with having somebody around, right, as far as the promoters, and they don't want to think about it. Some fighters will tell you, just let my team handle it. So they may not feel, you might feel that way. But I think Canelo is a point where he feels like he's that icon now. He's supposed to be like the best in boxing. He's the most valuable trophy, if you will. He's the most prized possession. So he can kind of dictate what he wants to do. So I think it's kind of like what LeBron did when he started getting the 1 and 2 year contracts, deciding his future. we might see that jump off. But until you make sure that the money is right, and I think that's part of these boxers building that themselves up to that level, I think some of them will stay right where they are with the promoters. Notice too, Canelo, say what you want to. I'm just gonna say the word TBE, right? You know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna leave that there. But TBE, when he left Bob Arum, he kind of started to put that in place, because even though he was with Showtime in that group, he always hired Golden Boy, and they were supposed to be his rivals. But they were the best in the business in promoting and making sure everything was right, the press, everything. So he had to set up that way. And even if Oscar didn't like TBE or not, he damn sure wasn't gonna turn that money down. So they got right in line, and it just went off without a hitch. You know, I want to thank them, blah, blah, blah. But you ask him somewhere else about the person, TBE, he always had stuff to say. When it came down to getting checks, which is why TBE connected with Oscar's guy at the time, Richard Schaefer. You know, they had a beautiful relationship because everything worked well. So Canelo can do the same thing, to the point where he can choose who he wants to work with, this fight, that fight. As long as he has somebody on his team to kind of direct it, you can do that. You can bounce around because you're the guy. Like, you can fight who you want to, and you might have some people like Aaron might say one thing or another, but let's be real. If Canelo comes to you and says, hey, I want you to work with me on this, same way with Golden Boy or PBC, you think for one fight, you think he'll say, nah, I wouldn't want to deal with you? Hell no. Nah. The same way when you mentioned real quick about Bud Crawford, when John mentioned about Bud Crawford might be having his contract ended with Arum, with Top Rank. But Arum's old, but he ain't that damn old. He ain't senile, to the point of, if Bud Crawford says, hey, I want to fight, okay, he'll go, well, you know, we not, and he might just say, all right, I'm gonna do everything I can to do it, because you want him still in the camp. You don't want him to leave. So granted, it might be against his better judgment as an 88-year-old man or whatever it may be. He's going to really go with whatever the fighters say. But getting back to your point, I think Canelo has the ability to set the precedent and the tone for the next generation of fighters if he wants to. But the question is, what will he do? Will he sign with Top Rank? Will he sign with PBC? You know, or maybe he just might one or two deals. It's wide open, and I'm sure everybody else is watching closely, but they also want to make sure, and I'll say this very quickly, the other boxers want to make sure it's going to work. Because you had a large $300 million deal with DAZN, and it went poof.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to keep following you in the poof.
Right.
I like my money. And I think you're going to see a lot of fighters watch very closely how they go about their business.
Well, I'm going to go to a baseball analogy here. There's the Curt Flood moment, which most people say that's a great thing that happened, but it wasn't for Curt Flood.
Not for Curt Flood, yeah.
Not for Curt Flood. Now, you have the Andy Messersmith moment where it was a great thing for Andy Messersmith because he got paid. So, yeah. And then Catfish Hunter, and we can go through all that, the early mid-70s. But the idea being, if you're the first guy and you're the Crusader usually doesn't end up doing well. Now, the Crusader being Canelo as opposed to Gamboa, just because we talked about him today. You know, if Gamboa decides he wants to be a free agent at this point, great, go for it. You know, that's not going to hurt anybody. But Canelo being the free agent at this point, that could be your Andy Messersmith moment. I don't know. Can he be the guy that says, now I'm going to capitalize on this, even though he's already capitalized on it before, as you said, and then poof, it went away. The part that I think is interesting about this, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're talking about being old school and not liking change. This, to me, is a change that needs to be done. Whether it's a continual change or if it's just a one-off, I don't know. But is this something where the promoters have to say, wait a second, they're going to be able to, them being the fighters, are going to be able to organize themselves on their own, and then we just have to go in and make the fight happen? Are they losing control, or do they have that kind of control already?
You guys are both right, and it's funny. Charles I smiled because Charles was thinking along the lines of me. If I'm Canelo, now I doubt he does this, but I'm not trying to say I'm smarter than him, but who has the most, other than Oscar, all this experience as far as promoting himself in the main fights and making himself what he was? Charles already knows where I'm going. So if I'm thinking to myself, who would I discuss this with if I want to be Canelo Promotions, like it used to be with the guy whose last name started with an M, Didida Promotions, and then he had the other guys as his backup team? I would say, look, and then the fact that they fought each other, usually fighters, and he's never said anything bad about that guy.
That was a good thing for him, yeah.
Right, and that guy's never said anything. He's actually been very complimentary of him.
Very nice, yes.
So I was thinking, well, who else then to at least talk about, look, I want to do this. I want to do what you did. You know, I want to fight in May. I want to do that every year. And like I was doing, didn't really work out with Oscar. And that might be, I think Richard Schaefer ran Golden Boy better than Oscar.
Right, without a doubt.
Where for whatever reason he did. I'm not going to put out, we've thrown Oscar under the train a few times here. Not going to say anything. I'll just say Schaefer was better at it. I'll just say that. But Canelo and Oscar aren't friends anymore. So that would be Mayweather, said the name, being lesser than, as far as a promoter goes, as Bob Arum and those guys. It would be bold. I know. It would be bold if he went with him, because that guy's promotional company really has Davis and Beto Jack and a few other guys, but not anybody of the iconic nature of Canelo. So that would be, I think that a lot of people would hate that if he did that, but I would think it was a very shrewd move, because then again, you're going with somebody who did this for a number of years. He got away from Bob Arum and he did his whole thing, recreated his persona, you know, and obviously did extremely well. So if at least bring him on as some kind of a consultant, if you're gonna do something like that. But yeah, no, back to your original question, Frank, it is a big deal. I don't really know where Canelo's going to go. He probably doesn't know yet. Will he? Who knows? Could he sign with Eddie Hearn? I mean, it doesn't seem likely, but Eddie Hearn does a good job. Eddie Hearn does a good job with his fighters, and you know he would love it to sign him. But Eddie Hearn was part of the Zone too, so maybe he's like, I don't want anything to do with the Zone anywhere. Forget it. I'm done with him. So if he wants to have a co-promoter or whatever you want to call it, he's going to have to sign with somebody, and it's not Golden Boy, right? It's not Top Rank. I don't think he'd go with Top Rank. But you know, it's going to be interesting. And one other thing, what Charles said, I have to say about Terrence Crawford, I think he's got. Okay, I'm gonna get a little crude here. I think he's kind of got Arum by the short hairs if he really wants to, because all he's got to say when his contract ends is when Arum goes, no, don't leave, don't go to people. Well, he wouldn't do that. He'd be a little bit calmer about it. You get me Errol Spence, I'll stay with you.
Right. That's it.
Right. He's got the negotiating position.
I'm in charge now. Right. Yeah.
Right. That's it. I want to fight this guy, and it does. Arum will let it happen, because Arum wasn't too excited about Lomachenko fighting Teofimo Lopez, but it did happen because Lomachenko kept saying, I want to fight this kid.
Right.
So, you know, I think Arum was saying, I'm a little concerned about this. And he's been around. God, he was Muhammad Ali's attorney years and years. I mean, he obviously knows a lot about it. So I'm just speculating there. But I think that's going to be very interesting. And then back to Canelo. Yeah, I think Canelo, you might think he's not in a really strong position, but I think he is. I think he can negotiate or figure out because he's already got Canelo Promotions. So it just depends on who he wants to bring with him, if anyone, because I don't think he can do it alone, and who he trusts. And like I said, that other guy in Vegas, who else? It's just fighters understand fighters, you know. And if I was a fighter, I would, even though it didn't go very well with Oscar, it did in the beginning, because they did a good job with Canelo for a number of years. It just went sideways. But maybe what Charles said is a thing. You say to that guy in Vegas, okay, look, we'll do it for one fight, see how it goes. Right. And if it goes really well, we'll see where it goes from there.
Here's the part that I think is mixed up. is that I'm an up and coming guy, and for security or purposes or whatever, they come to me and I sign a 3-year multi-million-dollar contract. I'm good. It doesn't tell me who I'm fighting. It doesn't tell me when I'm fighting. I just have the security of getting a paycheck and knowing I'm going to have a fight. Well, now I got to worry about just getting in shape to fight, but I don't know who I'm going to fight. So at the end of the fight, when they're in the ring, like, oh, my management team will take care of that, and blah 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 blah, because you don't know where you're going to go. And it's like, I'm just happy to be a part of blah 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 promotions, and I want to thank so and so and blah 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 blah, and Tide and everybody, just like you're in a NASCAR event, and you're like, well, does he know who's going to fight next? Does he know what's going on? Does he have? No, he doesn't have a plan. He has no idea. But he's holding or should be holding the cards, because now he's the guy people want. See, if you are that guy, and we can break the stranglehold of the 5-fight deal or the 6-year deal or whatever, just go, okay, I know that you're the promoter and you're going to put on a hell of an event. Cool. But how much work do you have to do? And I don't know the answer to this, to put a fight on, and we'll use this company because they don't do fights anymore. HBO. What does the promoter have to do to promote a fight that's on HBO? What work do they actually have to do? I'm the number one. I've got 2 belts. He's got 2 belts. You made the fight. Cool. Are you printing out flyers? What are you doing to promote the fight if it's on HBO, especially HBO pay-per-view? Again, we'll just use HBO since we're not in the game anymore. What are you doing to earn that money from me or from them or whomever if you're the promoter? Now, if you're in some backwoods in the middle of New Hampshire putting on fights, yeah, you got to scramble to do a lot of stuff. But when you get to this arena, how much is Golden Boy doing or what are they doing in the zone for Canelo? Obviously, they weren't getting any fights. So if you're not getting any fights, what else are you doing? Charles, I don't know. There's a question in there someplace we look for it, but I'm just wondering if I'm Canelo, or in general, if I hold the belt, I don't need you anymore.
And I think that's part of it for him. So I think the way to pacify him at the time was to give him a big money deal, right? So you figure that out. We'll give you $300 million, and then we'll figure it out as long as we go. So no matter who you bring up, I'm still getting my money. So I'm not supposed to worry about that. That's off my table. But again, as you mentioned, going into that issue of what are you done for me lately, I don't think Canelo thought about that. I don't have to worry about that. I don't care. I got $300 million, $365 million to be exact. I don't give a damn who you bring out. I'll fight him. But
I got $1 million for each day.
Right. So he didn't care. But when it came clear that he wasn't receiving what you promised, then that's when the problem came. Because every time he would mention somebody, it was said that they weren't good enough. And we're not going to pay you this amount of money to fight that guy. And he's like, well, hell, who will you pay for me to fight? And then that's where all of the drama came. And he's like, I don't need any of this. Just let me be. Let me go. And I think that's how they were, because all it came down to was a testament, again, of no one making any money. Everybody being stagnant. You got Canelo sitting for a year. It's Canelo sitting for 2-3 years. Nobody's making any money. So I think the writing was on the wall for him. But I think initially they were kept saying, okay, you can fight this guy at this point, or you can fight this guy. And they kept paying him for it. I think he would have honored the contract and said no problem. But when it just came to the point where they were having issues and negotiation, and Oscar seemed to be on the outs, he had no real power and no say anymore. Dude was like, you know what, I'm done. What I'm going to find interesting is behind the scenes, who's Canelo's guy now? That's the research I'm going to find out. Who's pulling the strings for him to kind of say, go this way, no, go this way. Now that we're free, what do we do? I'm going to research my tail off on that, because I want to find out more intriguing, because that decides what his next step is and whether or not they make quality decisions. Again, if you throw TBE in there, that's going to piss off a lot of people. The one thing TBE does know how to do is make money because he has a brilliant team, and if he doesn't know it, he hires the best people, and their work has been impeccable, and it's produced results. And at the end of the day, people with money, that's all you care about is making more money.
Okay, now for those that don't know, we mentioned. Go ahead and say who TBN is.
You say it. I'm not saying it.
No, I'm not going to say it. You're the one who brought it up.
I said TBE. You know who TBE is. I'm not saying it. You want to, you this is your show. You want the people to know who TBE is.
That's it. So you throw me under the bus. All right. There's this thing called Google if you have to figure out what Google is. All right. Now, okay. So and here's I think the first thing you find out about who's pulling the strings. John, who killed the Billy Joe Saunders fight?
Golden Boy, well, the guy Canelo did. It seemed like it died, and then he did. Billy Joe did with his self-destruction. I mean, it was
right.
You know, if that's what you mean. I mean, it was like it was executed by himself, self-destruction, and then I think Canelo wanted to fight Billy Joe, and I thought that would have been an intriguing fight. And Golden Boy was all for it. See, the one thing about Golden Boy before was that a lot of times Canelo would veto what they wanted him to do. For example, if you go back a number of years, he fought Austin Trout, and when Austin was really rolling, beating a lot of guys, and Oscar De La Hoya didn't want Canelo anywhere near Austin Trout. Now, some people say Austin Trout won that fight, but whatever. Canelo got the decision. He didn't want him anywhere near Lara, who's clever, who's that C word, crafty. The good one, crafty. I'll say it. I don't know if you'll get it. See what C word I'm talking about. He's also very clever, as the English like to say. And he didn't want him, but Canelo said, I want him. I want to fight him. He's talking a lot. I want to fight him. So if you're asking who's going to be in charge, and Charles was saying that, who's behind the scenes? Yeah, you know what, Charles? I don't know if anybody really is right now. This might just be all Canelo's doing. I don't know if he's got anybody really doing. Yeah, he's a pretty smart kid, and he's been around. The guy, he started fighting when he was 15. I think he knows the ins and outs of the business. He's got a pretty good idea what he wants to do. His brother helps him in some ways, the one who fights, and then the other one, he's got an older brother who helps him. He might just be done with all these guys, like we've been saying, right? And saying, look, I'm going to do what you're saying, Frank. I'm going to be my own promoter and manager. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to try. He could do that. He could say, I'm going to try it one fight. I'm going to sign to fight this guy, and then I'm going to take care of everything. Now, how he would do that and get ready to fight, of course, is another thing that he should know that he can't do both. There's just no way. He can't train, right? So I think if you're a person who likes to be in charge of your life, like we all wish, we don't have to answer to the man, and you want to work for yourself, which is great. You don't want to answer to anybody. He's at that position right now. So he's probably contemplating, because he did throw a name out, as we remember. He did throw out Caleb Plant. He threw that name out. I want to fight him for. It's like, who? I mean, I know, Charles knows, but a lot of fans are like,
nobody else is right.
The kid's a good fighter. I don't know why he wants to really fight him right away after not fighting. He's good. So it's interesting, but I really think Canelo's his console is he's talking to himself right now about and others, but he doesn't really have any like mentor or anything. I think he's thinking, I know this as good as these guys. I can do a better job handling my career than they can. So that's where I am right now. But I might listen to you if you got some suggestions. That's kind of my feeling.
Well, I'm at the point I don't see any rings on these fingers, so anybody controlling me. But the point of that is.
You sure? Look at Charles.
Not now. Yeah, not now. Shut up. Anyhow, I forgot he was there. Never mind. I shouldn't talk about stuff like that when he's there. But where's
the strings at, Frank? Where's the strings? Yeah. I don't see them. You got them hidden pretty well. Yeah.
That's why we got the green screen back there, right? But seriously though, here again, I don't know. Okay, let's put it this way. If I'm Canelo Alvarez or any of these other guys, I don't want to promote the fight. I just don't need to have the contract for the whole rest of whatever. I'll sign a deal, get me my next fight. You get me the guy that I want, and then you take care of the business side of it, I'm good. You know, but you're not going to have your hooks in me for the next 3 fights, and you're not going to decide who I fight and how it gets done and all that. No, that's not necessary. I'm going to work my butt off, get in the ring, and take care of business. But I'm going to tell you who I want. And if you want to be a consultant on that, that's fine. But if I say I want to fight Caleb Plant, you figure out a way to make Caleb Plant work. Then once you do that, you want to fight in England, you want to fight in Brazil, you decide. That's up to you. You know that side of the business. But I know as a boxer who I want to fight next, how I'm going to defend my title, and where I'm going to go. So I think for him, he's going to have to find a medium ground with somebody that doesn't want to have, again, there's a control issue. Is it someone who wants to have everything? It's like, no. You're going to get paid. I'm not worried about that. You're going to take care of business. You make the pay-per-view thing. You make sure I get my cut. I'm cool. Whatever percentage everyone gets, I've been through this already. I know how that works out. So we're not going to worry about negotiating contracts. If I'm getting 80% of the draw or 50% of the draw, and I don't care. Go ahead, do that. But you're not getting this fight and then the next fight and then the next fight and the next fight. And I've got to wait on you to figure out what's going on. That's the part that I see. So Charles, enlighten me on why I'm wrong, because I don't think that I'm seeing the whole picture.
Well, I mean, but I don't think you're really wrong. But the question is, I said that the question is earlier, who wants to deal with all that? I mean, you got some guys, all they want to do is fight.
And that's what I'm saying. That's all I got to do. That's
right,
it.
Right. But not to be connected for so many years or so many fights.
One fight.
It's right. It's hard for them because boxing is always, for the most part, you know, you got a guy that, you know, you got your person that takes care of everything, your manager, your trainer, right? Then you got that other guy that does the promotions and make sure it breaks all this. Then you go to another level because they're dealing with another bigger group. To really get involved in the day-to-day or even actually major decisions takes a lot. And I'm not saying Canelo can't do it, but I don't see the average boxer going, yeah, man, I'm gonna make sure all my stuff is together. I got this plan. It's too much. It's overbearing for a lot of people. Some people don't want that. They're the talent. They want to hire the people, and they want to hire them. A lot of them don't even want to think about it for the next 5-10 years. That's why I think we're in the situation we're in. Okay. Canelo, on the other hand, has went from one thing to the next. Okay, he was being built up as the next great thing, right? But it took him a long time to get there. Canelo and Golden Boy always said he was, but then finally, I think Canelo's at a place where he's an exception. He's being treated as such. He can do that. Everybody's not like that. And I don't think a lot of guys, even though they would have the opportunity, I don't think they want to do it because some people just not business oriented. You say what you want to about TBE. He's business oriented to a sense, but he has people doing it. So of course you can say we're fabulous, we make a bunch of money, but at the end of the day, he's not the guy going, it's a Leonard Eller with somebody else. Right. I think that's the difference. I'm not sure, and I might be totally wrong about this, but to the average boxer, to the average athlete, a lot of people, all of that, which they should be in charge of their own finances and their own situation. I don't think a lot of them feel comfortable with the nuts and the bolts and getting their hands dirty. That's just, I think that's not who they are.
Well, and that brings up the next thought that I have. In the bubble, we had what I thought was a good fight, but it didn't go the way that one gentleman thought maybe he was supposed to do. We're talking about the last week, the Jason Moloney fight, and I got my Moloney's fight mixed up, Andrew Moloney, that he didn't really, he didn't like the performance he gave. Let's put it that way. So this is the first time, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to see a rematch from a bubble fight. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much we're going to see something, I think, from this fight that is going to be different, because this is the first time this has ever happened. That now I have a rematch from something that, are we going to get used to being a bubble fighter or the bubble matches? I mean, it's a whole new way of looking at things. Do you think that's going to make a difference, or did that make a difference the first time, John?
No, I don't. I haven't heard too many fighters complain about it. I mean, fighting in the bubble, and it's weird still when you watch it. There's barely any people there. They have added, let a few people kind of, you hear them a little bit in the background a little bit, which is nice. But you're talking about Moloney and Franco here coming this weekend, the rematch. That fight is flying under the radar, and I know what you're talking about. Moloney lost that fight, and he was crying. And you don't see that. And he was upset at himself. He wasn't blaming anybody. He was making no excuses. You had it was like the wide world of sports. Remember the agony of defeat, the thrill of victory. You know, on one corner, you got a guy with his hands draped over the ropes crying. And then Franco's going bonkers, jumping all around because nobody expected him to win. So now they're fighting again in the bubble, like you said. So I think that's secondary, but I think the drama of the rematch, unless you know about it with that, like you mentioned, Franco trying to prove that the first fight wasn't a fluke. So it's like a sequel to a movie, you know, the first one was really good. And then, can you do it again? Yeah, I can do it again. Well, show me you could do it again. Can Moloney say, no, you're not beating me again? Can Franco say, yeah? And usually in boxing, when a guy wins a title, you guys probably know this, it seems to lift his game a little bit. I think it's the mindset. You know, I'm a champion now. So you believe more in yourself, and that boxing is a lot here too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too, Frank. I'm going to say it. I like Moloney in the rematch. I think he might, but this is a 50-50 fight all the way. But that drama that you're talking about, I hadn't seen a guy get that upset in a long time, and I like that because those twin brothers, fought the monster. The other one got knocked out. They're a couple of great kids. I mean, guy who writes for Max Boxing, Anthony Cox, is from Australia, and he talks to them all the time. And they are very nice, modest guys, and that's good. You know, we need that balance in boxing. They don't try to be anything other than what they are, so they're hard not to pull for. Is what I'm saying. And I'm not going to be Franco's the professor, the little professor. He's a good guy too. He's got a great trainer there, and Robert Garcia in his corner. So it's got a lot of intrigue. Nobody's paying any attention to it, but obviously we are. So this is another one that should be a good one.
Well, it kind of reminds me, and I don't know why, because it really doesn't, but it does, of Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao. And you look at it, it's like, okay, Horn wasn't supposed to win that fight, and he did. Or however you want to call that. And then we have on paper, he won the fight.
Yes.
But the idea of now we have the rematch. The thing that I think, the reason I draw a comparison to that, even though it's not a valid comparison, but we'll get to that at another time, is that the home cooking aspect, I think, of that fight is what got Horn over. Like I said, did he win the fight or not win the fight? That's not the point.
Definitely.
That fight fought in a bubble, and the rematch fought in a bubble. Charles, is it a different outcome? Because that's what I'm seeing with these bubble fights now. What happens when you're fighting in the bubble?
Well, I think that at that point, Horn doesn't have, looking at that fight, he doesn't have all of that hoopla, doesn't have all that excitement around him. And clearly, you know, when the judges the referee allows a fighter to use his elbows to cut a fighter, and then the announcers act as if he's getting punished because he's cut. I'm like, did you see the damn elbows? What are you watching? But I think in the bubble it's different because it's a different atmosphere, and you really got to bring your own energy, you know, from that standpoint. And then in this rematch, in particular with this other Moloney brother, I think there's a lot of things you mentioned with Robert Garcia being in Franco's camp and stuff like that too. But the fact of that, though, this Moloney brother was crying afterwards, and I think I'm not gonna say it's a setup, but I think I'm a conspiracy theorist all day long. When he says, look, he's crying, he goes, I love a rematch. He goes, oh, you would? Oh, hell yeah, we could do it again. I'd do the same thing I did to you before. And it goes from so many months to right back in November. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get him this time. And it's like, you playing right into my hands. So he's believing that I messed up. I know what I messed up on. I'm going to get him. It's very similar. And when you mentioned about comparison fights, I compare that to Santa Cruz versus Frampton. I really do. Because it's like, I know what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not
Run
sure.
it back.
I don't know if Moloney's going to be able to do this because he came quick. And he's like, yeah. And you don't see that often, particularly in the bubble. You don't see people have, as you mentioned, there's usually some money involved, but they're going right back in the bubble. He's like, oh, yeah, I got you this time. So that's what's intriguing to me. It's like, can you deliver on what you think you can rectify this time for Moloney? Is that concerned?
Well, to me, and we'll get out of it at this. It's if you're playing basketball and you lose the game 11-10, you don't say, we'll see you next month. It's like, run it back, run it back, run it back. Let's go. All right. I know where to get that extra 2 points from. Let's run it back. Yeah.
Yep. Next.
So, yeah. Y'all just go sit down. Let's run it back. You guys get on the court later.
I told my brother that we played basketball, played 3-point shootouts all day long. He had beat me in 20-some years. He finally beat me. And he was so excited. I just put my head down like, damn, he finally got me after 20-some years. And then, of course, he's feeling all good about himself, prancing and whatnot, right? And he goes, let's run it back. I was like, did I just say?
Are you a little bit more confident than you should be?
Let's say run it back. He's like, yeah, because I'm feeling good. I'm going to get you. And that little person in me was like, you don't know what you asking for. And he's like, let's run it back. And we ran it back. He lost. So I feel you, Moloney. Let's go, baby.
All right. And on that note, let's call it a show because it was a show. Sometimes we call it a show and it wasn't a show. This was a show. So I thank you, gentlemen, once again. We're getting more and more people getting on to the website, which we're revamping right now, getting in touch with us and letting us know what's happening. If you get a chance to watch this, share it with other people. Hit the like button, the dislike button, leave that one alone. All the good fun stuff. This is fun, and it'll be fun again next week. Gentlemen, thanks again, and we will see y'all later.
Later.